Before the college entrance exams, my girlfriend Amy was almost assaulted by some thug. I rushed in to save her and got seriously injured. The next day, just as I got out of the ICU, Amy accused me and got me arrested. She twisted the story, claiming I was the one who attacked her, and the thug was the hero. To ensure the cops pinned it on me quickly, Amy stirred up rumors about me not having a dad and being just some illegitimate child. My family was harassed online. People splashed paint and threw filth at our door. My mom begged the attackers on her knees, tried to prove my innocence, but only got beaten and insulted. In despair, she hung herself. My future was destroyed, and I lost the only family I had. Meanwhile, Amy got my recommendation to Harvard, with a bright future ahead. 3 years later, after jail, I confronted Amy. "Why did you do this to me?" Sitting in the thug's fancy car, she looked at me like I was nothing. She said, "A guy like you deserves such misfortune. Taking the fall for my husband is a privilege. You brought this on yourself by interrupting our fun." I felt the world spinning and fainted. When I woke up, I was back on the day I saved Amy. In a hidden corner, I saw Amy being harassed. "Help!" Hearing that familiar cry, I couldn't help but smile. I'm back for revenge. "Johnny, stop. Don't touch there." Amy's face was red. She struggled like an innocent little rabbit. The thug, Johnny, looked excited. "Don't shout. I've got money. Plenty of girls want me to notice them." Last time, I rushed at Johnny, got into a scuffle, and ended up with 3 broken ribs, lying in blood. Things escalated. Johnny ran off. Amy cried and thanked me for saving her honor. She even said she'd marry me after exams. With those words from Amy, I was happy even as the ambulance took me away. I even imagined seeing her in a wedding dress. But the next day, my beloved girlfriend sided with Johnny for money. They and the cops came to arrest me. I was shocked. They both reported me. Assault was too light, so they added molestation on me. I tried to defend my innocence, but Amy's act was too convincing. Her accusations cut deep. 3 years of love and care daily turned into her deadliest weapon. Amy used her knowledge about me to weave perfect lies. In her version, I was the attacker, not Johnny. My kindness became plots leading to a crime. She even lied about my mom's work and said I was an illegitimate child. During my arrest, Amy and Johnny spun the story to the media. In interviews, Amy cried her heart out on camera. "As a girl, my purity matters most. Would I falsely accuse Gary?" Her innocent, pitiful act gained massive sympathy. The story spread online like wildfire. Our address got leaked and people stormed my home. They trashed it and vandalized everything. My mom kneeled at the door, pleading. She said her son wasn't a criminal, but the deceived attackers beat her relentlessly. She couldn't take it anymore, donned a blood-stained shirt, and hung herself outside. The next day, Amy and Johnny manipulated the news. Molester drives mother to shameful suicide. After a full 3 years, I was out and furious. Amy sat in Johnny's BMW saying, "Regardless of facts, weren't you also wrong?" Johnny gave me a luxury life, designer bags, clothes. "Could you do that? If your family had money, would I need to frame you?" I felt rage boil and collapsed. When I woke again, I had returned to before the heroic act. Finally, fate gave me a chance for revenge. I grabbed a baseball bat, snuck up quietly, and hit Johnny hard in the head. Amy was terrified, clung to me, begging me to stop. When harassed, she acted conflicted, probably planning to be with Johnny. I pushed Amy aside, kicked Johnny repeatedly in the groin. Johnny ran away crying. Amy froze, then wept in my arms. "Gary, thank goodness you came." Johnny almost ruined everything. Coldly, I pushed Amy away, called the cops, and left. Before attacking, I placed a phone in the corner, recording everything. Tomorrow, when they report me, they'll be in for a surprise watching that. Back home, my mom was cooking. The table was set with my favorites: braised ribs and veggies. "Wash your hands and let's eat, Gary. I made all your favorites." Suddenly, my eyes watered. 3 years ago, I last saw my mom in a video of the incident. To clear my name, she jumped off the 12th floor in a blood-written outfit. I rushed into the kitchen, collapsed at her feet, and cried my heart out. My mom was startled. What's wrong? Is someone bullying you at school? Tell me. I'll talk to them. I was in tears. Mom, your son got into Harvard without even taking the test. You won't have to suffer anymore. She'd heard the news a few days before. Relieved, my mom laughed. Silly boy, that's amazing news. Why are you crying? Today, I was letting out all the frustration from the past 3 years. From now on, I won't have to cry. Amy and Johnny can cry instead. The next day, as soon as I walked into class, I was surrounded by a bunch of cops. Amy was being supported by 2 girls, looking like she was about to pass out from crying. Johnny, bandaged up like a mummy, was sitting next to her. A cop grabbed my arm. Gary, you're under suspicion of assault and harassment. You're coming with us. Holding on to the evidence, I was calm. I asked, who did I harass? With teary eyes, Amy raised her head. Gary, stop pretending. Yesterday, it was you who tried to harass me in the alley. If not for Johnny, you'd have ruined me. And you hurt Johnny so badly he's in the hospital. How can you do this? Amy's sobs and accusations made my classmates look at me with anger and disgust. Who would have thought the seemingly honest Gary was like this behind closed doors? I heard someone say Gary grew up without a dad and relied on his mom's street earnings. No surprise, it's not shocking someone like him would commit a crime. I was fuming. Amy was really quick to spread lies. I said, you're accusing me of harassment? What's your proof? Amy put on a pitiful face again, choking on her words. I'm a girl. Why would I lie about something so serious? I pulled out a stack of letters from my backpack, handing them to the police. 57 love letters from Amy, dated 3 years back. I hadn't planned to date Amy, but her persistent letters moved me. Some of them were so explicit it was almost laughable. After carefully reading the letters, the police took me, Amy, and Johnny to the station for questioning. Due to insufficient evidence, I was released that afternoon and went back to school. But Amy wasn't done. Just like in another life, she and Johnny started a smear campaign against me. Amy was a natural actress. Her cries and accusations were so convincing, everyone believed her. Local media picked up the scandal, branding me as a harasser. People began to harass me with phone calls. Amy's supporters trashed my desk and chair, bullying me in every way possible. Teachers gave me the cold shoulder, pretending not to notice. A few days later, Harvard got an anonymous tip and revoked my admission, giving it to Amy, the school's top-ranking student. Amy, with her newfound admission, became arrogant quickly. She started skipping class and partied with Johnny's money. During free time, she'd give interviews, urging the police to arrest me. Though I had enough evidence against them, I didn't rush to expose them. A simple harassment attempt and some lies wouldn't get them much jail time. But forged evidence, defamation, and cyberbullying, that could get them 10 to 20 years. I wasn't in a hurry. I watched them dig their own graves. Soon I got my chance. 3 nights before exams, Amy and Johnny barged into my house with a group of people. Johnny, in his wheelchair, scoffed, "Wreck it." About 10 bodyguards started smashing everything in sight with baseball bats. I stood by silently. Johnny thought I was scared and grinned. "Gary, until you confess, I'll make your life miserable. Today it's your house. Tomorrow, maybe your mom's legs." The group laughed wickedly. Amy sneered, her eyes burning with hatred. I pulled out my phone. "Leave now or I'm calling the cops." Johnny was all talk, no game. After whispering with Amy, they left with everyone. It was just me and Amy left in the room. Amy questioned, "Gary, why won't you confess?" I chuckled bitterly. "I didn't do anything." "Confess to what?" Amid tears, Amy replied, "Does it matter if it's true or not? Just admit it already, Gary. Stop being selfish. It wasn't right for Johnny to attack me, but was it okay for you to hurt him so bad?" I rolled my eyes. "Didn't you yell for help back then?" Furious, Amy shouted, "Why was that any of your business? Admit to the crime, it's just a measly charge. But if Johnny's gone, I lose my future happiness." I was speechless, tired of her nonsense. Thinking she got through to me, Amy smirked, "Your chance to go to Harvard is gone. With just a street-sweeping mom, you won't amount to much. Fine, admit your guilt, and I'll even compensate you. When you're out, you can work security at Johnny's company." Fed up, I snapped, "I'll turn myself in after exams. Until then, no one's allowed to bother me. Otherwise, I'll fight you to the end." Amy got my promise, and she was grinning from ear to ear. She asked me over and over, ensuring I promised to confess at the graduation ceremony after the exam. Then she left satisfied. I took down the hidden camera from the ceiling. I captured everything Amy and Johnny did. Just 3 days left until the exam, and they'll get one heck of a surprise. 3 days went by and the exam was done. Exhausted, I was the first to leave the exam room. With my scores, a full scholarship to the top universities is guaranteed. Whether they recommend me or not, it's irrelevant. The moment I was out, reporters surrounded me with questions. "Gary, what do you say about the public label of you as a molester? Are you really a molester? Anything to say about Amy's accusations?" I took the mic and said, "I'll address this soon enough to everyone." Out on the school field, the stage for the graduation is all set up. There was Amy in designer clothes and heavy makeup, waiting at the podium. She's heading to Harvard and is about to deliver a speech as the outstanding graduate. Johnny, covered in bandages, sat next to her on crutches. When they saw me, they immediately came over. Amy, all bossy, said, "Gary, I let you finish the exam out of the goodness of my heart, so don't back out now." What nerve! Hearing those words from Amy, Johnny whispered menacingly, "If you don't confess in front of everyone, I'll make sure your family pays." I stayed silent and found a place to sit quietly. Half an hour later, more than 1,000 students and teachers gathered for the ceremony. Amy was the first to speak on stage, surrounded by envious stares. After a brief intro, she directed the blame my way. Her voice cracked as she tearfully accused me of attacking her that night like an animal, and how Johnny heroically saved her, getting injured in the process. She painted such a vivid picture, and soon everyone was looking at me with anger and disgust. Wrapping up, she played the victim. I agreed to let Gary finish his exams before turning himself in. He treated me awfully, but for the sake of being classmates, I agreed. "Gary, if you're a real man, you won't break your word, right?" The crowd erupted in indignation, showering me with insults. "Can't believe Gary's that kind of jerk. People like him should be punished. How is such a person even allowed to take exams? If Gary is able to take exams after doing such things, it's a disgrace. She's way too kind, letting someone like that get the better of her." With the crowd's fury rising, I figured it was only a matter of time before someone tried to hit me. Nearby, a dozen police officers stood ready to arrest me. Amidst the chaos, I calmly left my seat and headed up to the stage with a flash drive in hand. I plugged the drive into the computer, bringing up the projection screen. "All the proof is on this flash drive, take a look." Amy and Johnny looked at me eagerly, probably expecting a video confession. My mother's death, years of humiliation, a life ruined. This video will clear all my shame and anger. "Amy, watch closely from down there. The revenge you've been waiting for is here." I clicked play with the mouse. Everyone's eyes were glued to the big screen. In a dark alley across from school, Amy was struggling and crying for help as Johnny grabbed her. Johnny's vicious face was crystal clear on camera. "Stop yelling. My family's got money." At this point, Johnny rushed to grab the flash drive. "Stop it. You faked this. Those pictures are edited." In front of everyone, Johnny grabbed the drive, chewed on it until his mouth bled, and swallowed it. Then, with a hateful glance, he muttered to me, "Gary, my family has money. Once the evidence is gone, I'll be out in no time. When I'm back, I'll take you down, and then your janitor mother." Officers rushed in, pinning Johnny to the ground. With blood all over his mouth, Johnny still managed a sinister smile at me. Amy stood shocked, frozen in place. I pulled out another flash drive and plugged it in, much to Johnny's surprise. "Johnny, you like eating flash drives?" "No problem, I've got plenty more." Also, I've uploaded multiple copies online. Probably going viral around now. The screen showed Johnny almost assaulting Amy again, and the scene was intense. Students at the back moved closer, trying to get a better view. In the video, I snuck up with a baseball bat and bashed Johnny's head. The scene was thrilling, drawing gasps from the crowd. Johnny went wild, trying to lunge at me. "Gary, I'm gonna kill you. You know what happens when you mess with my family, right? Even if I'm locked up, I'll take out your whole family. Maybe Johnny can't kill my family, but he's sure going to jail." A police car arrived at the stage, officers dragging Johnny into the back seat. The screen showed Amy crying in my arms, thanking me over and over, saying she wanted to meet my parents and even marry me. An officer came on stage. "Gary, your name's clear now. Can we not let this blow up anymore? Not blow it up? No way. Last time, I was labeled a molester and served 3 full years in jail. Even my mom got insulted and attacked by people, and she was so mortified that she took her own life. I want to give all that humiliation back to Amy just the way it came. I want her to live in a constant storm of online bullying, shame, and insults. Forever." I angrily said, "These 2 people made me lose my spot at Harvard, and I've been bullied online for so long. Shouldn't I clear my name and prove my innocence?" The cops seemed to think I was right, so they didn't stop me. Downstage, there were over 1,000 students, all buzzing about it. "Amy's terrible. She gets saved, doesn't show gratitude, but turns on him instead. People like that should be locked up with Johnny. I've seen gold diggers before, but one that repays kindness with revenge, with no conscience? That's new." I knew it. Gary has always been top-notch. He couldn't be guilty of such things. I recall Amy chased Gary for quite a while. Everyone owes Gary an apology. In the midst of all the talking, I finally cleared my name. But the crowd was like a sharp knife, their eyes full of mockery, anger, scorn. Amy lost all her strength and slumped on the floor. Seeing her looking so desperate and pathetic was as refreshing as a cold soda in midsummer. "Amy, this is just the start of it. Enjoy it slowly. All the pain you caused me, it's coming back to you twice as hard." After slumping for a while, Amy suddenly kneeled in front of me, crying bitterly, "Gary, please forgive me. If you don't forgive me, I'll have to publicly take my own life." Amy cried miserably, just like she did after almost getting assaulted by Johnny, sobbing in my arms. "Ha! She doesn't know she's wrong. She's just scared. If I don't forgive Amy, she'll face charges of slander, spreading lies, and false accusations, and do at least 10+ years in prison." I looked calmly at Amy, asking if she'd really commit suicide if I didn't forgive her. Amy paused, then nodded desperately. "Gary, I know it, you'll forgive me. You wouldn't let me die. No, just go ahead." I stepped back, crossing my arms. "Just don't get blood on me." The crowd laughed loudly. Amy, embarrassed but not wanting to die, pretended to close her eyes and tried to hit her head against the podium. The podium was makeshift, barely a wood plank, not enough to hurt her. The police, doing their duty, stopped dramatic Amy and tried to comfort her. But they let me continue playing the video. As the 5-minute video finished, the whole school had watched it. Amy cried herself into several fainting spells. She desperately tried to defend herself, shouting that she didn't want any of this and was plagued by guilt every moment. It was Johnny, the jerk, who almost assaulted her and threatened her family's lives. If she didn't agree to be a false witness, Johnny would kill her family, assault her 80-year-old grandma, and kick a 3-year-old child. Amy's story was exaggerated, trying to act the innocent victim and gain sympathy. But after watching the video where her true colors showed, no one felt sorry for her anymore. If her claim about Johnny threatening her was true, she wouldn't be punished and would keep her Harvard spot. Amy probably forgot. When she and Johnny barged into my house, wrecking and threatening me, Johnny had left first, leaving her alone. Her ugly behavior was on full display. Still, I didn't expose her right then. There's always time to call her out. I've got plans for her. After the graduation ceremony, the principal and teachers asked to talk to me with Amy. They said it was rare to have someone go to Harvard and asked if I could let it slide forgive Amy. We were a couple for 3 years, after all. The police also said if I forgave Amy, they'd try to keep her out, and instead let her assist with the investigation from home. I didn't hesitate and agreed to their terms. Amy jumped up to hug me, sobbing, "Gary, I get it now. You're the best thing that's happened to me. From now on, no matter what you do, hit me, scold me, kick me, I'll never leave." Amy was pretty, but her obnoxious act was repulsive to me. I pushed her away and made demands to the school and Amy. The school allowed Amy and Johnny to smear me online without stopping it, so I asked for $20,000 as compensation. The school agreed right away. Also, I wanted Amy to write out everything Johnny did, using a lawyer to detail it, then present it to court as evidence against Johnny. Amy, being the lousy person she was, had a knack for fabricating charges. To clear her name and appease me, in her statement, she described Johnny as completely despicable, forcing her by imprisonment, torture, even using her 3-year-old brother as leverage. Amy's testimony became evidence. Originally, Johnny was only facing attempted assault and slander charges. He now had a heap of new charges, the most serious being harm to a child and illegal imprisonment. His sentence went from 15 years to immediate death penalty. On the day of execution, I took Amy to see it unfold. Johnny yelled and cursed at Amy from the death chamber, saying he'd haunt her forever. Amy was scared to the point of trembling, pleading with me to leave sooner. I laughed and said, "Johnny messed you up so bad. Don't you want to see him die with your own eyes?" Amid Johnny's struggle and cries, Amy couldn't hold it and passed out cold. I ignored Amy, called her family, and left her at the police station. For the next little while, I was busy fighting a lawsuit against Johnny's family. When Johnny trashed my place before, I'd caught everything on a hidden camera. Thanks to my experience from the past, I'd already bought some overpriced jade, crafts, and antiques to put in obvious spots at home. Their price tags were outrageous, but you could get a pile for $100 if you bargained. But when Johnny smashed my stuff, he had to compensate at full price. With video evidence, Johnny's family quickly lost the case and had to pay me over $5 million. My mom cried tears of joy when she saw the money. When I was 3, my dad saved a drowning child in the winter and never made it back. For 15 years after that, my mom worked as a street cleaner, sweeping streets and picking bottles to make ends meet. We'd never had more than $10,000 in savings. If the school hadn't paid me $20 grand, I wouldn't even have had money for the lawsuit. With this cash, my mom and I no longer had to live in a rundown apartment. I spent $3 million on a top-notch place in the area and another few $100,000 on renovations. About a month later, when everything was done, I took my mom to see the new place. She stood in the bright, spacious living room, moved to tears. "Son, I never thought I'd live in a house like this," she exclaimed. I held onto her work-worn, rough hands and said, "Mom, the good times are just getting started. Once I start working and making money, our family will be living the dream." There was a knock on the door, and Amy came in, arms full of flowers, smiling. "Gary, congrats on the new place." I didn't take the flowers she offered, and she awkwardly placed them on the table. "What do you want?" I asked coldly. After dealing with Johnny's family, next, I would make Amy pay for what she did. I couldn't believe she had the nerve to show up. "Garani," she cooed, "it's been so long. Are you still mad at me?" My mom knew everything Amy had done too, and sat on the couch without a word. No friendly face for Amy. Unbothered, Amy continued, "I was forced to do what I did back then. I really like you, Gary. Let's get back together. Okay?" I laughed. "Sure, I'd love that." Her eyes lit up. "Really?" "Of course." Once she was sure we were getting back together, Amy couldn't wait to ask, "Gary, I heard you won against Johnny and got a lot of money. Is that true?" I said, "He paid $580,000. Amy's eyes sparkled even more as she put on a pitiful act. "Gary, for standing up for you, Johnny's family made my life hell. My parents lost their jobs and we have nothing now. You're my boyfriend and loaded. You'll help me with college, right?" I knew she only used people, but I was shocked at how scheming she was. I forced a smile. "Of course. Amy jumped up and hugged me. I knew you were the best. I pushed her away and said, I'll cover all your college expenses. No worries. You can leave now. Amy thanked me endlessly and tried to win over my mom before leaving happily. Her leaving still left a bitter feeling in my heart. You want me to fund your education? First, you'll have to qualify for college, not spend your next life in jail. Enjoy these last few days. You'll be crying soon enough. After Amy left, my mom looked worried. Gary, we might have money now, but we can't waste it. I reassured her, Mom, I won't let Amy get away with ruining our family. I will handle her. Just give me some time. She still seemed concerned. If all this hadn't happened, you'd still have your spot at Harvard. I'd rather not have this money if it meant you'd have a bright future, she said sadly. I smiled. Mom, I don't need an automatic ticket. I'll get into a good school. There was another knock at the door, this time from someone with a college acceptance letter. My college entrance exam results were out, and with a high score of 710, I'd been accepted early into Harvard. I got full tuition and a generous scholarship. Over the next few days, top universities came to our door, each offering better deals. To make up for my past regrets, I stuck with my first choice, Harvard. My mom was over the moon, starting to plan a banquet and inviting family over for my farewell party. After my dad passed, we'd struggled and often relied on relatives. With my acceptance and financial win, my mom could finally stand tall. With no more worries, I was ready to take Amy down. She had no idea what a deep mess she'd gotten into. She falsely accused me of something terrible, and though I verbally forgave her once, I never signed an official pardon. That means I can take her to court any time. Being falsely accused of indecency almost got me a jail sentence and caused a huge scandal. Amy should get at least 5 years in prison. But her worst crime wasn't even that. Johnny was originally charged with attempted indecency, plus some petty vandalism and thuggery. He'd face at most 10 years. Amy, trying to save herself, added charges against Johnny that turned his sentence into death. What she did isn't far from premeditated murder. Amy teamed up with Johnny to vandalize my house and even threaten me. I have it all on video on my flash drive. All I need to do is hand that drive to the police, and Amy will go to prison for at least 20 years. Amy wants to attend Harvard? What a joke. By the time she gets out, she'll be ready for a senior citizen college. I spent a week gathering evidence, including the video and proof of Amy and Johnny's partnership, then went straight to the police. The cops didn't arrest her right away. They started a secret investigation instead. Within a week or so, Amy would face justice. School was about to start, so my buddies and I went to the mall to grab some supplies. But as soon as I left, we had an uninvited guest at home. 2 days before school, a moving company showed up at our door, hauling clothes and stuff into our house without asking. A flashy middle-aged woman in sunglasses stood in the living room, ordering them around. Be careful with those. If you break anything, you can't afford to pay for it. My mom was baffled. Who are you? The woman took off her sunglasses, looking all smug. I'm Cindy, Amy's mom. We're moving in here from today. You'd better clear out the master bedroom for us. Before my mom could react, Cindy had the movers packing up our stuff and tossing it into the living room. My mom was furious. This is our house. Why should we leave? Amy strutted in with her luggage, hugged my mom's arm, and cooed. Auntie, I'm with Gary now, so I'm your daughter-in-law. Isn't it normal for us to live together? Unsure of what to do, my mom called me and explained everything. I almost choked with anger. I took a cab home immediately. As soon as I walked in, Amy rushed over, clinging to my arm. Gary, we're one family now. Isn't it great that I asked my mom to move in with us? I stared coldly at Amy, saying nothing. She can forget about living with me, but jail time is right around the corner for her. Cindy stood there, hands on her hips, looking arrogant. Gary, since we're family now, let's set some ground rules. My daughter won't tolerate any mistreatment. She has OCD, and your mom sweeps streets. Can they really live together? I laughed in disbelief. Where do you think my mom should live then? Amy pouted. Gary, didn't you say there's an old house near the cemetery back home? It's a bit run down but should be fine for shelter. It's 50 miles from the city, but we can visit her often. My mom hung her head, tears silently streaming. Seeing my silence, Cindy grew impatient. What are you waiting for? Pack up and move your mom. Enraged, I smashed my hand across Cindy's face. She clutched her stinging cheek, shocked. How dare you hit me? I said coldly. How'd you escape being swept away by my mom on the street? Cindy wailed, kicking and screaming, Daughter, we're not even married yet, and your mother's already being beaten. Where's the justice? Amy turned red with anger. Gary, that was too much. How could you hit my mom? I flexed my wrist and said, Sorry, I was so busy hitting your mom. I forgot about you. Then I slapped Amy hard. She fell to the floor, bawling alongside Cindy. Watching their hysterics, you could see they were cut from the same cloth. Amy cried, Gary, I risked my life accusing Johnny. His family's bankruptcy is crushing me. Is this how you repay me? I coldly retorted. Johnny's parents paid me huge compensation and spent a fortune on appeals for Johnny, who was sentenced to death. They're already bankrupt, living on the street scavenging. How could they possibly target you? I bet you're using our family's wealth to sell off your stuff, buying luxury goods. Amy and Cindy were always decked out in designer brands, but they came from ordinary families. I bet they thought they could cling to me in the next lifetime and just started spending wildly. Amy still wanted to argue when the cops knocked on the door. With all the evidence against her, they cuffed Amy right there. Amy, you're under arrest for perjury, false accusations, cyberbullying, and more. You need to come to the station with us right now. Amy panicked. Who did I frame? If you don't explain, I'm not going anywhere. I sneered and said, The time you came to my place and threatened me? We got it all on tape. Amy, Johnny's paid for what he did. Now it's your turn to pay for yours. With the evidence laid out, Amy collapsed to the floor, bawling and begging for forgiveness. If I forgave her, it could reduce her sentence. Ha! For someone as low as her, I'd love nothing more than to see her get life in prison. I refused to give her a pardon. A week later, the verdict was out. Life in prison for Amy. That decision totally made my day. As for Cindy, being just as materialistic and having drained the family funds, she couldn't support herself and ended up scavenging on the streets. The misery I faced in my past life was finally repaid in full on Amy. And now, I'm looking forward to a future that only gets brighter after college.